We're here to have real conversations with the real people you want to hear from about real topics that you really want to learn. And we're here to help you open up with real thinking. We're here to open up your awareness and help you become the real you. Welcome to the Wake the Bleep Up Show. Welcome, everybody, to the Wake the Bleep Up Show, where we have real conversations with real people about real topics you want to know about, with the idea of getting you into real thinking. I'm Tony Schmaltz. I'm here with my co-host, Aaron Birch, and we have an amazing guest today, Dave Albin, the firewalking master. He's the CEO of Firewalker Adventures, and just an amazing guy with an amazing story, including who he's worked with, and we'll just get right into it. So, Dave, welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. That was quite a mouthful. Good job.
So I know Aaron and I are both interested about this, and we'll get into some other stories later. But the first one that popped into our head is, tell us the story of how you got connected with Tony Robbins and became his firewalking chief.
Well, so a friend called me in 1995 and said, "Hey, Tony Robbins is coming to town," and I had loaned him my book, and so he goes, "You got me into this, man, you got to go with me." And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll go see Tony, I'd love to." So he goes, "Oh, cool, man." He goes, "Let me call you back." So he calls me back like an hour later, and he goes, "All right, done. We pick up the tickets at will call, and here's what they told us to do. Number one, drink a lot of water. This is a 4-day event, so you got to stay hydrated. Number two, bring a lot of snacks because you're going to spend a lot of time in the room." Well, I giggle because anybody that's been to a Tony Robbins event knows you're going to spend a lot of time in the room. Yeah. And then he said, bring a good attitude and be ready to play full out. And I said, "Dan, how much was the ticket?" This is in 95, right? He said, $695. I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Don't worry, man, you can pay me back. It's no big deal." And I'm like, "So, what's that worth today? 1.2 million. I mean, buy Bitcoin, right?" So, right. So anyway, so just as he's getting ready to get off the phone, he goes, "Oh, wait. I forgot to tell you something. We're going to be doing a fire walk." And my brain immediately said, "Oh, like hell we are." Now, what's interesting, you guys, I don't know what that means.
Right.
I have no references for a fire walk in 1995. I don't know what that means. But the word fire and walk in the same sentence was like, oh, no. Because pretty much my life, up to that point, everything I did was based on fear. Mm-hmm. And so, but again, I'm not saying anything to Dan, right? I'm just going, "Yeah, sure, Dan, sounds interesting." Yeah. Hung up the phone and went, "Nope, ain't doing that. I want to see Tony, but we'll let the crazies do the fire walk and we'll just watch." And so the big day comes, and we get there, and Tony took the stage at 2:00 in the afternoon, and we're with 3,500 people, and I'm there with my buddy. And the next thing I know, it's after midnight. Snacks, remember, you'll starve to death. So next thing I know, and I'm not doing it. I'm holding fast on my commitment. I'm not doing it. Ain't going to happen. And all of a sudden, Tony goes, "Take your shoes off." And I'm like, "Oh, no, I see where you're going with that, pal. I'm not falling for that." Well, I got a problem. I'm in a room with 3,500 people. Guess what they're doing?
Taking their shoes off.
Sure are. And so is my buddy. So what am I going to do? Not take my shoes off and let the whole world know I'm a coward? Can't have that. So I start formulating in my head what my strategy is going to be. I'm like, just take your shoes off. You're going to walk out there with 3,500 people and to do this fire walk out in that big parking lot, just lose your buddy and go hide in the back. That's my plan. And it sounds like a pretty good plan. Well, as soon as Tony gets you walking out there, he's got everybody clapping and chanting. So now you got 3,500 people going, "Yes, yes, yes." And I'm walking out there going, "No, I don't think so." It gets worse. Because when you get out in the parking lot, he's got African drummers. And so now the ambiance is dun, 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 dun. And I'm going, "You got to be kidding me. What kind of dog and pony show is this?" So as we're walking out there, my buddy's in front of me, and so it was real easy to slip off and lose him. And then I went, to the back to hide out, which I thought was a brilliant strategy. Nah, not so much. Why? Well, because Tony Robbins knows that the firewalk is probably one of the most life-changing experiences on the planet, by far. And that's why he brought that 1,000-year-old experience into his seminars. He also knows that if you don't firewalk, you're going to miss the paradigm shift. Mm-hmm. He also knows there's people like me. So, right? So what's he do? He trains people to come find you. Really, Tony? Are you kidding me? And so there I am in the back thinking I got it all figured out. And here comes this dude out of nowhere. And he gets, I don't know, maybe 15 feet from me. And he's looking at me funny, right? Like a dog that hears a funny noise, right? And he points at me and he goes, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And of course, when we're not okay, what do we say?
Yeah, of course, I'm okay.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. There it is. Aaron said it. So I'm fine, right? Am I fine? No. And I, it's like, okay, dude, nothing to see here. Move along, right? And this guy goes right for the kill shot. He goes, "Hey, man, you're going to walk tonight?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." I'm like, "You idiot. What do you think I'm hiding in the back for?" And he was really cool. He had me figured out because he goes, "Hey, man, that's cool. No problem. We don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. However, let me ask you something. Wouldn't you at least like to watch?" And I thought, first of all, I thought when he said, we don't want you to do anything you don't want to do. I thought, oh, he's going to get me out of here. No, he's not. He's setting me up. Because when he asked me, wouldn't you like to watch? And by the way, this is a perfect stranger. I don't know who this person is to this day. But that dude right there changed the trajectory of my life forever. And so, wouldn't you like to watch? Well, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's go watch these people burn their feet off. No harm in that. That'll be fun. And he said, "Hey, listen, man, you can't see anything from way back here. I'm 100 yards away. I can't see anything. I can hear it. They're clapping. They're chanting. The drums are going. People are already firewalking. And when they get to the celebration end, they're jumping up and down and screaming like kids at Christmas. I can see the big fire over here. How do you logistically firewalk 3,500 people? You start off with a big fire and you burn it all day. And that pit's 35 feet wide, 70 feet long. And you just keep throwing wood on it all day. Hardwood, oak, locust, hickory. And at the end of the night, it renders. And there's a big, giant pile of blue coals. It's gorgeous. And so what they do is they take the steel wheelbarrows over there and they load the coals in a wheelbarrow. Then they pull a wheelbarrow in between two lanes of sod, of grass. They call it a fire lane. It's 3 feet wide, 15 feet long. Then they just take a flathead shovel and they sprinkle those coals on top of that grass. And that's what you walk on. Well, again, I'm in the back. I'm hiding out, right? And he convinces me to get in line. Okay, I'm going to go watch. So I get in line. Okay, I took the bait. And now, next thing I know, another stranger comes up to me. And he whispers in my ear. And he said, "He knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go." And pew, this guy just disappeared into the night. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? What does that mean? What do you mean he knows when you're ready? When he says go, you go? I don't know what that means. And so now I'm walking along and, the drums are going and people are chanting and they're screaming and yelling. I mean, it's a dog and pony show, you guys. It is intense. And so I get to a point, I still got about 1,000 people in front of me, but I get to an angle and I can see they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching it. And it's every race, every creed, every color. And they're firewalking. And my brain's saying, why? We're mammals. We're taught to run from fire, not go walk on it. And I'm pretty much mesmerized. I can't take my eyes off it. And so now I'm just staring at them. And I'm not really paying attention to what's going on in front of me. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, boom, guess where I am?
At the front of the line.
I'm at the front of the line. How the hell did I get here? And so now I'm staring down at those coals. And they're bright red. I mean, and there's a wheelbarrow there, right? You can feel the heat coming off. So it got real fast. And so as I'm staring into the abyss, there's a trainer standing there. And all of a sudden the trainer goes, "Eyes up." Like, you idiot. And I pulled my eyes up. Well, when I was in the room with Tony for 10 hours, guess what he teaches you to do? Keep your eyes up. Don't stare at what you fear.
Right. Right.
Interesting metaphor, right? Look to the celebration end. That's what you want to focus on.
Yeah.
And so now I got my eyes up and he goes, squeeze, because he wanted to shake my physiology up. He said, squeeze your fist and say yes. And I went, yes. And he went, stronger. And I went, yes. Well, he could tell. He could tell I wasn't in a peak state. I was leaving a lot on the table and he knew it. So he kind of like got right in my face and screamed at me, stronger. So now I'm pissed, right? So it's like I threw my hands in the air and I'm like, yes. And he goes, go, go, go. Boom. I took off. Remember the guy? He knows when you're ready. When he says go, you go. I did. Well, here's the first thing I learned about firewalking. When you take the first step, oh, you'll take the second, third, fourth, and fifth. I promise you. Right? Well, Tony stages two people at the end to catch you. And because hell, I'd have walked all the way to Albuquerque at that point. And they catch you and they're like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. And so now I'm wiping my feet and I'm celebrating. And for a second, I thought I burned myself. But when I looked at my feet, I had no burns. My feet were really dirty and filthy, but no, there's no burns. I had a foot. And so now you're jumping up and down. And you guys, I could just tell you, for me, it was one of the most exhilarating moments of my life, by far, bar none. Because in that moment, you think you can do anything. And I'm like, all right, people, where's the bus? Let's go to Everest. You know, we got this, people. And so it was a memorable night for sure. But here's where it gets really interesting for me the next day. This is a 4-day event. And so now the next morning, we're standing in the foyer getting ready to go into the venue. And I'm observing because I love to observe. And I'm watching all these people. And by the way, last night, I didn't know any of these people. I could care less. But the next morning, it was like they were all my brothers and sisters. So there was a sense of connection, a camaraderie, because I'm watching these people and they're laughing. Some are crying and they're hugging and they're connecting humanistically unlike anything I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah. And they're talking about the firewalk. They're talking about their fears. And I'm like, really? Did we drink the Kool-Aid last night? Yep, sure did. Well, later in the event, I met one of Tony's trainers, a guy by the name of Ted Macy. Really sweet guy. In fact, him and his wife, Mary, were both trainers back in the day for Tony. And so I'm talking to Ted like, oh, this is cool. I'm talking to one of Tony's trainers. And I asked him, I said, so Ted, what's it like being in this environment? He said, are you kidding me? This is unbelievable. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, you see those people standing over there with the black shirts with the pink writing on the back? Yeah. He goes, dude, they're volunteers. They're people just like you who came to an event and came back because they wanted to be part of it. He said, so real easy. Go home, call Robbins Research, ask them for a volunteer crew application. They'll send it to you. I did that. And 9 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. And it said, Dave Albin, congratulations. You've been selected to crew with the Anthony Robbins companies. Well, color my ass happy. Right? So there I am. So I crewed as a volunteer 5 or 6 times. The challenge with it is you have to pay your own way. So $1,500, $2,000. Well, my wife is like, who's Tony Robbins? I don't like you spending all this money, right? And rightfully so. Right. Well, shortly after I crewed, that I got offered a subcontractor's position. And the reason I got offered is when they look at your application, they saw who I was. Number one, I had a military background. Number two, I had a security background. So they said, hey, Dave, we'd like to put you on the security detail to help take care of 20 celebrities, which, by the way, I could do a whole podcast on that alone. Unbelievable. And because I lived on a farm, they knew I knew how to use a log splitter, a hatchet. I knew what kindling was. You know, I know the difference between oak, hickory, and locust, hardwoods, and I know it has to be dried out and all this stuff, right? So they put me on the fire team. I knew how to use tools. And man, and then, you know, again, they offered me a subcontracting position. Well, they did something else that was really smart. They gave me a free ticket. So I got to take my wife. And so she went through the event. And after she graduated, we took a walk on the beach in Fort Lauderdale to anchor it in. And she goes, okay, I get it. I drank the Kool-Aid. This dude's cool. So if you want to run with him, as long as you don't have to take any money out of our savings account, go ahead and run. And so I did. And this was all going down in 95 and 96. And then in 2003, my life was, again, forever changed. And Tony offered me the captain's position, which just meant that I would get to go on the road with Tony Robbins, take care of all of his firewalks globally. I did tell him this is going to be problematic for me because I homeschool my kids. And they stepped right up and they said, well, what if we paid to have your kids go on the road with us? Would that make a difference? You think? So there my kids are, 6 and 9, on the road with mom and dad and Tony Robbins. In fact, their first event was Sydney, Australia. And so that's how it started for them, which was spectacular. And then in 2005, we went to London. And this is where we set the world record. We firewalked 12,300 people. Now, I say world record, I want to disclose. Guinness was not there. But here's what I can tell you. That's the biggest firewalk in our planet's history. Nice. And the only thing that's ever come anywhere close to that is another Tony Robbins seminar where we walked 9,000 or 10,000, whatever it was. And then after that, again, my life was forever changed again in 2014. I'm driving down the road one day and my phone rings and it's Google. And they're like, hey, is this the Dave Albin that does the firewalks for Tony Robbins? I'm like, yeah, what can I do for you? And they said, well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you. I'm like, no shit. Well, homeboy's a free agent. What you got? And they said, and went on to tell me, we have 148 executives. Are you available on this date? Next thing I know, I'm on my way to Mountain Dew. So when I came back to my next event with Tony, when I was at that event with Google, one of the executives at lunch turned to me and she said, hey, Dave, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're at the top of your game. She said, are you in business for yourself? And I'm like, no. And she goes, you may want to think about that. Because I'll tell you right now, corporate America will eat you alive. You're exactly what they're looking for because you can create massive change. You can create the paradigm shift. There's nothing like this on earth.
Right.
So, just, for what it's worth. So, Google's telling me that I should start my own business. Maybe I should listen to them. So I went back in my last event with Tony, about halfway in, I said, hey, Tony, I need to talk to you before we end on Sunday night. He goes, you're leaving, aren't you? He's very intuition.
Yeah.
And so anyway, at the end of the event, we went in the green room, we talked and we laughed and cried and we talked. And, basically he, gave me a very great send-off video that he made for me and basically said, Albie, you've been amazing. Look, where there's great wisdom, there's great responsibility. Make us proud. Yeah. And so I think I've done that. Yeah. So that happened in 2014. And, they were right because shortly after Google, I went to NASA, Notre Dame, Chick-fil-A, Remax, Heineken, the YMCA. I mean, heck, the next thing you know, I'm on the Wake the Bleep Up podcast, with Tony and Aaron. So, since 2014, we've been going hot and heavy ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Aaron, you got anything you want to ask about that?
And so many thoughts going through my head. So many thoughts. And when you talk about a paradigm shift, I mean, there's no bigger shift in a person as when you do something you are genuinely fearful of, genuinely afraid of, and you do it anyway. There's no other way to feel about yourself other than, oh my God, I can now do anything I want to. Tackling that fear, I understand exactly what you're saying by it being so life-changing.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. So many people stay in that place of fear. This pushes them out of their fear.
Well, up until that point, fear controlled my entire life.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the acronym that I like to use was forget everything and run. Now there's another word I can use there in place of that, which I won't. Family show, right? But after the firewalk, it was face everything and rise. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. Today marks 36 years of sobriety for me. On June 8th of 1988.
Congratulations.
Thank you. On June 8th of 88, I woke up and I was grossly addicted to heroin and cocaine and alcohol, cigarettes. You could probably even throw in chocolate chip cookies. anything to make me feel good and, alleviate pain and get some type of pleasure. I was addicted to it. And when I woke up that morning, though, that was it. I was in so much physical and emotional pain. I said, I'm done. That's it. I'm out. I ain't doing this anymore. So I was married to a woman at the time that had 3 kids. They were my stepkids. And so I'm contemplating putting a bullet in my head. And as I'm doing that, because I'm like, you know what? I pulled that trigger. My pain's gone. That's it. It's over. No more pain for me. And I wasn't thinking about whether there's a heaven or a hell. Not at that moment. I didn't care. I was in hell. Right. So, and then all of a sudden it dawns on me, Albie, you pull that trigger, and those 3 kids and their mom upstairs that you love, you're going to ruin their life. Who the hell do you think is going to clean up the mess down in the basement? Because I was living in the basement, they were living upstairs because I was in such horrible shape.
Yeah.
And that's, that was a monumental moment. So the next thing I know, I go, well, then why don't you call Alcoholics Anonymous? Well, that's interesting because I don't even know who the hell AA is at that moment. I didn't know anybody in AA. I'd never even heard of AA.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's the thought, well, where did that come from? So I did. I called AA. And I got a really beautiful human on the other end of the line. She was there. She was at Intergroup. She was answering the phones for potential, from alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
And she was really cool. And I affectionately nicknamed her Madge over the years. And I did that because she talked like this. I'm pretty sure she was smoking 2 packs of Pall Mall non-filters a day. And here's what I can tell you. She was a badass.
Yeah.
She would interview you hard. It was her job. She's a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
So she would decide whether she would call somebody to come pick you up. And she did. She called a guy by the name of Lauren. He came and picked me up. I went to 4 meetings my first day. I went to a 12:30, a 4:30, a 6:30, and an 8:30 meeting. And when they sent me home that night, they gave me a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And they opened up the front cover and they all signed it. I was an all-men's group. It was an all-men's group. And so they wrote their first name and their phone number. And at the top, they said, before you take that first drink, call one of us. And they sent me home with that. And keep something in mind here. I'm coming off alcohol, heroin, and cocaine. There ain't nothing fun about that. I mean, the withdrawals from alcohol will kill you. You can go into delirium tremors. It's bad. And then cocaine and heroin, you just think you're going to die. So the next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, my phone rings, and it's John from AA. And John's like, hey, Dave, good morning. How you feeling this morning? And I'm like, are you shitting me? How do you think I feel? I want to kill somebody, dude. And I might start with you for calling me at 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I'm violent. I'm homicidal. I'm suicidal. I'm not in good shape here. And John's like, he's a typical old timer AA. He's like, yeah. I hear you. He goes, hey, man, listen, I live right around the corner from you. Last night, I heard where you live. I know exactly where you live. He goes, let me do this. Let me come pick you up. Let me take you to breakfast. And then let me take you to an AA meeting.
This episode is brought to you by 7K Metals. All your gold and silver needs go to 7K Metals. You can get all of your collectible coins or raw materials at cost, and the only true investment in your future is in gold and silver. There's all kinds of uncertainty around cryptocurrency and around virtual dollars that this is the only solid investment is gold and silver. So go to 7kmetals.com/schmaltzy to check it out now and be a part of this amazing legacy of investing in gold and silver for your future and the future of your children.
I mean, are you kidding me? I had never felt more love and warmth in my entire life. And when I got to AA, I'd never felt like I belonged anywhere other than some shitty little bar somewhere where I belonged. And I felt that I belonged here because these men were real. When they looked me in the eye and said, Dave, we know how you feel. They knew how I felt. And so I was home. And, when you get to AA, what you learn early on is you got the 12 steps that have put your life back together.
Yeah.
You got the 12 traditions that show you how to interact within the group. Well, in the middle, it's kind of like the preamble. And it says, I'm responsible. And then after that, it says, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible. And I took that to heart. And you'll excuse me, I'm a little emotional today because, again, it's been 36 years that my life turned into an absolute masterpiece. And I was that close. I mean, as close as you could possibly get, I think, to ending my life. Mm-hmm. And so as I got into the personal development industry, it happened the same time when I was getting sober, because I had insomnia. So I was up late at night all the time. Well, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning one night, and there he is, you know, Mr. Motivation, Mr. Infomercial himself, you know, a young, vibrant Tony Robbins. And I thought, what an obnoxious shit. I couldn't stand him because he's all motivated and encouraging, and I'm not, right? But he said a couple things that got me. The first thing he said, he goes, we'll do more to avoid pain than we will to gain pleasure. And I went, damn, dude, you're talking to me. That's why I did drugs. I'm either trying to chase a little bit of pleasure or I'm trying to run from pain. Mm-hmm. And then here's what got me. He said, you know, the driving force in our life, how we make decisions as humans, they're made one of two ways: inspiration or desperation. I went, well, I'm pretty desperate, so maybe I should listen to this dude. And I did. And so he was selling a program called Personal Power. And it was a 30-day program. They would send it to you in a big box, and you did it at home. And it came on these little white things called cassette tapes.
Yeah, right.
Right. Your whole audience is like, you know, what are those? They're at the Smithsonian. They're right next to 8-track tapes and reel to reel. And so I plugged them in, you guys. I did what the man taught me to do, and it worked. And then, as I said, you know, 7 years later, my buddy called me on the phone and said, Tony's coming. Because I loaned him my tape program, and he told me he bought Tony's book. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, but I never read it. And I go, well, how often does that show up in your life? and so anyway, I lost Dan here a few months ago. But Dan's the one who called me on the phone and said, because come on, man, go with me.
Yeah.
And so there we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a great story. And it's great how you made that change, and congratulations on 36 years. That's an amazing accomplishment. And like you said, you chose in the face of fear and desperation to make that change. And, you know, so many people, especially in today's day and age, choose the opposite. And it's a challenge. So Aaron and I are both in the space where we help people overcome fears, and we've spent lots of time doing that ourselves. And many hours of practice and personal development. And I have to admit, I have not been to a Tony Robbins event or done the firewalk yet, but you can see the broken arrow behind me. I did break that with the small of my throat here up against a post. Yep. So I've done similar.
Very, very, very familiar. I have the Dave Albin Firewalk Academy. Yep. I do it once a year in October. And that's one of the other experiences that we teach. Yep. We teach the board break, the brick break, the arrow break, the rebar bend, the firewalk, the glass walk. Ooh. Obviously, firewalking isn't always logistically possible.
Right.
So we offer the glass walk. The other thing, I use that as a backup. So if we run into a horrendous storm where we get rained out or something, which very rarely happens, I must say. I've only been rained out twice in 30 years. Wow. We have the glass walk as a backup. So yeah, we teach the arrow break. It's pretty spooky because it's really the only experience that I facilitate where people tell themselves, hey, what happens if that arrow penetrates my trachea? Well, I got news for you. You're going to have a bad day. I did a really good friend of mine. She's a doctor. She's an ER doctor, and it was all women. And there was 40 of them there. And she came and as I'm pre-framing this to the girls, I'm like, hey, Dr. Stace, so tell us, if that arrow pierces their trachea, what happens? You're an ER doctor. She goes, she put her head down. She goes, I don't know that I can save you. Of course, they're known, those arrows are known as neck breakers, but right. It hurts. It pushes back. You feel pain. And you know what I love about the arrow break is as it starts to hurt, and as soon as it starts to bend, it maxes out on the pain level.
Yeah.
Right. But we think it's going to continue to hurt, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Great metaphor for life. I love it also for women, because any woman that's been abused, who's been grabbed around the throat,
Mm.
that can be an incredible release for them if you
Oh,
can get them to break through it.
right, right.
So I love that. I love the arrow break. It's one of my favorite.
Nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I did
So,
not like the arrow break.
I bet, yeah.
Just
Yeah,
tell you,
I
did
didn't
not
either,
like
Aaron.
that one.
I was
did
like,
you,
oh, hell no. That thing, I can die. Right. This is the dialogue's going on in my head. So yeah, Aaron, I can relate. It was pretty spooky. But you did it anyway, didn't you?
No, actually, I didn't.
You didn't do
what?
it.
Nope. I backed out.
Wow,
Backed out.
interesting.
I felt really, really pressured too. I didn't feel it was my choice at all at the time. I've done the board break, and then big one for me was bungee jumping, where I stood there and did the mental talk. What's going to happen? Am I going to hit the side of the cliff, the whole bit, for 7.5 minutes, and then finally had the guy push me.
Hmm.
Wow. Well, I'd love to give you that gift of the arrow break
Yeah.
to push through it. Because again,
Love that.
well, and I'll tell you straight up. So how many pounds per square inch does it take to break that arrow?
I have no idea.
No idea.
About 25.
Okay.
25, 27 pounds per square inch. How much pressure is it going to take to push through your trachea? As you might know, this area was pretty well designed.
Mm.
There's a lot of thick, if you feel the skin on, like on your underarm like that, and then feel this. It's really thick.
Oh, yeah,
So
it is.
Right. So it takes about 130 pounds per square inch for that arrow to push through your trachea. And again, I would have coached you, no pressure. I film it out, no pressure. But at the end of the day, the question is you have to ask yourself why you didn't push through.
Mm-hmm.
What fear was holding you back? Was it the fear of dying? What was it? And I guarantee you, we know what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you.
Right.
Right. So again, I would come to the academy. We do it every year. In fact, I have really special pricing for friends and family.
Mm.
And so we do it up here in the Appalachian Mountains. I live in the northwestern part of the state of North Carolina.
Okay.
And so my cabin is at the 3,500 foot level. And so the whole area up here. So last year we graduated 11 people. This year we'll probably graduate about the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then you spend 5.5 days with me.
Oh, wow.
And I teach you all this stuff. So as a trainer, as a coach, you can go back into your circle of influence and create real paradigm shift, right? Board break, brick break, arrow break, rebar bend, glass walk, fire walk. And I teach you how to do all the other stuff, right? How to talk to fire marshals, insurance, hold harmless agreements, how to talk to a potential client, all that stuff, how to join a chamber of commerce. And to give you an example, on day 2, I do a river walk. So I put the whole team on the river. And it's a meandering river. There's no real rapids. You just float. And it's only about this deep, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get out, I've got the fire waiting for you. And so they do a board break and then they do their fire walk. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a spectacular experience.
Nice.
Really cool. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I love that you're doing that and teaching people that. And that's so important. And again, it's the paradigm shift that you're talking about that's the most important out of this. It's getting people through that. And Aaron, I don't know where you were offered the arrow break. I know it was Brian Finale who had me do this one at one of the masterminds I was at. I actually volunteered to go first because I wanted to push myself past that. I mean, so Aaron knows this guy, Brian Finale, like I do. And he was intentionally instilling fear in you while you were preparing for this. And then when you sign the harmless agreement, I actually read contracts. And so I'm reading this and all the stuff in there. I'm like, the what, huh? And so
if you die,
and it go at the bottom, this could include pain and death or death or something like that. And I'm like, so we had just gone through some meditations. We'd done some practices to overcome fears and pushed ourselves quite a bit. And so when it came down to it, I'm like, no, I'll go first, just because I wanted to push myself beyond that. And when it was done, it was like you said, you felt like you could conquer the world. Let's go. What's next? And so yeah, it's anything like that people can experience. I always encourage it. I mean,
well, that's why the academy is so cool. And I'm very selective.
Yeah.
I don't let everybody in. If you're coming to the door with a big ego, it ain't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If you're there to serve others and create paradigm shifts and help people live their best life, great. We want you. Because I get CEOs, entrepreneurs, business owners, trainers, coaches. I get a little bit of everything. And that's cool. And again, the whole idea is so that you can take all those skills, go home, and then facilitate on your own.
Right.
Because it takes your coaching practice or your trainer practice to a whole nother level.
Right. Right.
Which is, obviously pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So anyway, for what it's worth.
Changes you. You become different. You show up differently. You're willing to take more risks. You're willing to be more proactive.
Yeah, 100%.
It changes who you are. When I did the aero break, that was years ago. That was when I was just starting to get into the work. Yeah. So if I did it now, as I'm now even a different person,
of course,
I would do the aero.
Yeah. Well, and then the interesting part, when you go to facilitate it, then there's a whole nother level of fear. Right. But when I walk kids, but when I started walking kids for the first time, especially mine. So when I took over for Tony in 2003, my kids we were in New York and we're at a Robbins event, and my daughter was 6, my son was 9. And so they're standing over in the shadow. So the whole idea was I put them with one of Tony's trainers because I was too busy to work with them. And I wanted somebody else to train them, not dad.
Yeah.
And so we walked like 6,000 people, and Tony knew that my kids were going to walk that night. So again, they were just standing over there in the shadow, and all of a sudden we're done with all the participants, and dad waved them on, and here they come, doop, 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 6 years old and 9 years old. And about the time they're coming over there, I'm going, they're 6 and 9 years old. The coals are 1,000 degrees, you idiot. What are you doing? As a father, oh my God, this is child abuse, and all this shit's going off in my head. And it was such a beautiful moment. Vinny came running up, and here she is 6, and Tony took her by the hand, and I took her by the hand, and across the fire she went. And then Davey Jr. stepped up, and he's 9, and Tony bent down and said to him, and I'll never forget it. He said, "I love you and I love your daddy. Go." Right. And so they've walked many, many times, and Davey Jr. is 30 today.
Wow.
And my daughter just turned 28, and she just, I've got 2 grandkids. I've got a 7-year-old grandson and a 1.5-year-old granddaughter. I walked Caden, my grandson, when he was 2. I carried him. Okay. So, let me put that in there. And, that video of me walking Caden across the fire it's just unbelievable. So my kids are so successful today.
Nice.
And, were they influenced because they were on the road with Tony Robbins? Of course they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely they were. They firewalked multiple times. And it's been a beautiful thing. And they were on the road with me. And then when I started my own business, my son has helped me many times, but my daughter was on the road with me. She was, she's not a photographer, but she takes really good pictures. Let me put it that way. And so she took a lot of photography, and she helped me with logistics. And so, yeah, my kids have been on the road with Dad with Firewalk Productions for quite some time.
Upbringing.
Yeah.
Right. How abused could it be? They've gone all over the world.
How many kids can say they grew up that way, learning that stuff, having that stuff instilled in their mind,
and being homeschooled at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we yanked them out of the public school system. We're just, no, we're not doing that. I don't think so. And so it was a beautiful thing. Like one of the first books I had my son read was Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill. So, those things influence a young man. And that's the beauty of what we do. A couple of months ago, you guys, I don't know if you know this, but I was on a podcast. And so we finished up and we were talking sidebar after we recorded. And Natalia said to me, she said, "Dave, let me ask you something. Have you ever done a firewalk for veterans?" And I said, "You mean specifically?" And she said, "Yeah." And I go, "No, why? What's going on?" And she goes, "We have 200 vets. And you know the suicide rate, right?" "Yes, like 22 a day is what I hear." She goes, "No, it's not even close to being true. That's bullshit. That's the media's putting that out there. That's only if they leave a note. It's like 45 to 50 a day."
Wow.
Every single day. I'm a vet. The father that raised me is a vet. He was highly decorated in World War II. I grew up during the Vietnam era. And so I went, okay, I'm in. I see where you're going with this. We're going to create a life-changing, life-saving paradigm shift experience. I said, so can you give me a couple of days to think about this? I'm in, but give me a couple of days to think about this. She says, of course, absolutely. So I went to bed that night and woke up in the middle of the night. It was clear as bell. Operation Do No Harm. And then it dawns on me, there's 3 other categories in addition to vets. Number 2 is first responders.
Yeah.
Number 3 is single moms. Number 4 is kids that have been abused and neglected.
Yeah.
So make no mistake, corporate America has been really good to me. I've been hired by some of the biggest companies in the world. However, now with Operation Do No Harm, it's going to be a 501c3. It's a nonprofit.
Right.
So now a corporation can come in and make a donation. They write it off. Now they can decide which group you want. Oh, you want veterans? Oh, you want first responders? Great. So now bring in all your people. We'll do them together. Now all your employees will get to be part of saving those men and women's lives.
Yeah.
So the purpose of all that will be off the chain. And it'll be completely, it'll be, again, just completely unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I started talking on other podcasts about it. Well, I was on Ed Pyracott's. He's on Podmatch. He's a vet, and he's the president of the Modesto Sunshine Rotary. Well, he said, Dave, we're interested. Well, can we hire you to come and you put on this event for veterans and first responders? Said, sure. And so we scheduled it for last April 12th and 13th. We went out and did it. And a whole bunch of sponsors came in. C3 Insurance, Jamie Reed and his organization, unbelievable insurance company out of San Diego. They do a ton of stuff for veterans. They stepped up. They showed up. The American Weed Company. These guys are formulating cannabis specifically for veterans.
Wow.
And they've got a peptide. So they finally figured out how to grow it, process it, and deliver it that is consistent every single time. And it's specifically engineered for PTSD and depression. These guys are awesome. Wow. Yeah, these guys, Ryan and Jessica, they brought all, and Joe, they brought their whole team. They were so awesome, incredible. They were there. My friends at Zippo, you're going to light a fire and do a firewalk. Why not use a Zippo?
Yeah,
right, there you go. So when this event, I knew we were going to do it. I called Zippo and I said, hey guys, I'm doing an event for veterans and first responders. Are you guys interested in being involved? They said, absolutely. So they said, can you come to Bradford, Pennsylvania, where the plant is? Oh gosh, childhood dream. Sure. So I got there, sit down with the design team. They designed the lighter, absolutely phenomenal. They've been incredible. And so now again, corporate America can come in and really make their brand look good. Because at the end of the day, they pay the money to Operation Do No Harm. Operation Do No Harm hires Firewalk Productions. We come in, we do all the work. We do all the heavy lifting, and they get all the credit.
Yeah.
So if they want to make their brand look sparkle, just sparkling clean, then sponsor an event.
Right.
Right. And at the same time, they're Monday morning when all their employees come to work, they go, look what we did. We just saved 300 first responders and veterans' lives.
Right.
So it's an absolute win-win-win for corporate America. And, call us. We're ready to go.
Nice. That's awesome. That is awesome. And I love the sponsors. The sponsors are amazing. And I like that you're supporting the sponsors by sharing that too. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
They've been really good to us. And so we're going to be really good to them.
Nice.
No doubt about it.
It gives people their power back. People who are in a place where they feel completely powerless, right? First responders, vets, they're powerless to do, sometimes to save people and the whole bit. This gives people their power back.
Well, and the other side of that, Aaron, I'm glad you brought that part up, is why does a veteran or a first responder take their life? Okay, let's take a vet. They go to training, they get deployed. And when they get over there, every day is designed around keeping each other alive. Well, there's a little bit of purpose with that. Wouldn't you agree? And then, of course, they see horrendous stuff.
Yeah.
And then one day, trauma.
Yep.
And then one day they know it's coming. They're scared to death. They got to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And when they go home, it's over. Everything they had, all that purpose dies off because now they're fragmented. They don't see their brothers and sisters every day. So then what happens? Depression sets in.
Yeah.
And then they reach for that drug. They reach for the alcohol. Next thing you know, we lose them. Yeah. So my idea was, okay, let's bring them in. Let's rekindle the purpose. That's right. What they need. So one of the first things I have them do is take an oath. If I firewalk tonight, I promise to do no harm. That's all the creed. That's the promise they have to take. Well, when a veteran takes a promise and takes an oath and takes a creed, guess what?
This episode is brought to you by My Genius Leads. My Genius Leads is an AI-powered lead generation system that you can use through social media platforms to help bring more people into your business. Doesn't matter if you're a coach, a consultant, a network marketer, an affiliate marketer, or just somebody who's selling a product, My Genius Leads can work for you. So go to mygeniusleads.com/Tony Schmaltz to get your introductory offer for your risk-free trial and be a part of this phenomenon, this AI phenomenon that is creating wealth around us. mygeniusleads.com/Tony Schmaltz, and we'll see you on the other side.
They live up to it.
Yep.
Take it seriously.
So it's like, right? I got them. And so then we also incorporate the board break with the firewalk experience. And since you've done the board break, you'll love this, right? So I have them write something on front of the board they want to move towards. I have them write something on back of the board they want to move away from. Mm-hmm. I have them write anybody's name on the board that they're in conflict with. And I created this part, right? So if forgiveness or reconciliation is part of that relationship, you're going to give it to the fire tonight. It's over. It ends tonight. And then to create the rite of passage, I have them write anybody's name on the board that they've lost. Mm. Then they go out, take them outside. We have our board break stations. I don't want everybody holding the boards. It's just, I set up stations. We can go boom, boom, boom. It's much faster. Then after they break their board, I have them walk in a circle. They go throw the board into the fire. And then I firewalk them. And then as soon as I firewalk them, I'm like, stop, wipe your feet and celebrate. Smell this. And this is an essential oil by doTERRA. It's 4 different blends. Oh, it is so yummy. So what does that do? They're in a really peak state in that moment, and they smell this.
Anchors.
It's anchors.
Yep.
So now, a month later, a week later, whatever, you're feeling down, take out your oil, smell it, and it'll take you right back to that moment where you were anchored.
Yep.
Brilliant. And then I do something at the end where I put all the participants in a circle. And I say, now look across the circle and make eye contact with somebody you don't know. Okay, everybody got one? Great. Now walk over to that person and stand 3 feet in front of them. Now, here's what you're going to do. I'm going to put you in a hug, a heart hug. And I want you to hug the opposite way you would normally do it. So that way your heart is sitting on top of their heart. So we hug this way. And now close your eyes. Take 3 deep, they're going to take 3 deep cleansing breaths. So I have them take a really, I'll say, all right, now take a breath in. More air, more. Now hold it. Guess what happens? Their hearts calibrate.
Of course.
So their hearts start beating at the same time.
Nice.
So I do the 3 cleansing breath, and I'll do that several times until the entire group heart is beating at the same time. And then I take them back in, and I do some more anchoring and some more other things. And again, it's all about telling them at that point. So now your job, you experience this unbelievable experience. You need to go recruit your fellow brothers and sisters. Yeah. We'll be back in Modesto next year to do it. And then of course, now again, companies can come to me and, you can still hire me. If you don't want to sponsor, you don't have to. You can come in and just write Firewalk Productions a check. If you're launching a product or you've got dissension going on. I think COVID caused a little bit of that, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
People still arguing over a damn mask and a vaccine in political positions. Give me a break. Shut up already. That'll tear your company. It'll shred your company.
Big time. Big time.
And so what's the CEO going to do? You better fix it. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, production goes boop. in the toilet it goes, and your shareholders go, CEO can't do their job, get a new CEO.
Yep.
So I'm the fix-it guy, right? So when they hire me, I'm the guy that comes in and fixes it.
Nice. Nice.
That is
But
great
again-
for corporations, you know, like the bonding experience. Now go back to work and problem solve.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Because, you know, if
Right?
you take them to a seminar and a dinner and you take them golfing, I got news for you. Golfing's not going to change your life. They hate it because
Yeah,
John
yeah.
wins the tournament every single year. I'm sick of the guy. I'm not a golfer.
Right.
Look, what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you better pick something that's going to challenge your people, because when they do, they elevate. When you elevate them together, then they're not fighting over masks anymore, or vaccines. You know, get your nose out of my business. You know,
Or
just
who messed up the didn't put the ink cartridge into the photocopy machine, right?
right, exactly.
Right? They go meta. They think bigger picture.
Yes.
Yeah, because I get them to move as a unit.
Yes.
And what you can't undo is Monday morning when they all come in and they're standing around the coffee machine, or they're in the the print room, whatever. You teach them respect, and they honor each other, and they get along.
Right.
Because if they don't, then again, production goes down.
Well, and it's like you said, I don't know how many people, so many people don't understand that. I don't care if you're in a small business, you're a solopreneur, you're in a large corporation, you are in the people industry. You're in the people industry.
Yes,
it doesn't matter how small or large your company is. If you are not in the people industry, then you are failing. Your company will not make it unless you're in the people industry. You have to put people first, and you have to put people together, like you're talking about. Bring the people together, or you're not going anywhere fast.
And you know who said that and gave us a great clue? Richard Branson.
Oh,
Branson said, do not focus on your customer.
right.
Focus on your people and make sure that they're taking care of your customer.
So I love that you said that. So when I was working in the corporate world, I was in quality assurance manager, director, and I was known as the people leader. I was always the guy leading, and I had a sign that was facing outward on the window outside of my office, so everyone could see it, that said, people first, customer always. Because if you put the people first, they're always going to take care of your customer.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
And you know,
Well,
we
they
as
feel
humans,
they belong there.
Yeah.
right?
They're happier.
Yeah, create a
They're
golden
gonna do a
handcuff.
better job.
You create a golden handcuff, and they'll take a bullet for you. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yep.
You know, I believe the two most important times of someone's life is the moment they're born and the moment they figure out why. And eventually we can all figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, my mentor said something to me years ago that I never forgot. He said, Dave, every human on this planet has two lives. And the second one starts when you realize you have only one. And I went, okay. You know, and I think, you know, why don't people get what they want in life? Pretty easy. There's a story they tell themselves of why or why not. And who created the story? We did.
Yep.
Every single thing, bad, good, or indifferent, doesn't matter. We create the story. So my encouragement to you is create a masterpiece.
Yes.
Because if you create one around, you know, something bad that happened to you, I could talk about my childhood and being adopted and my father committing suicide and all that. Every bit of it, I've empowered myself. My dad committed suicide 2 months before I was born. And I chose joy. I chose happiness. I chose love. I chose respect. Because I wasn't there. I don't know what he was going through. I know they put a plate in his head. He was in a lot of pain in 1953, and he took his life. And he brought me into the world. Thank you, Dad. I love you, and I appreciate you. And because of that attitude, right, I chose that. That was a choice. Conscious decision. I was out to dinner with my son a couple of years ago, and we're sitting there. And when I go out, I like to have a lot of fun with the servers. I like to treat them like gold. And I tip well, and I talk to them well, and I encourage and I inspire. Come on, it's my DNA.
Yeah, why not?
So I'm doing all that, and we're sitting there at dinner and having a great time. And you know, I'm eating, and I look down and I look at my son, and I look back and I go, "Oh my God, I'm having dinner with my dad's grandson. I can see my dad. I had never seen him. To this day, I've never seen my dad. No pictures, nothing." And in that moment, and I contribute this because I chose the right attitude within my story, is the reason I had that moment. And it was beyond priceless.
Nice.
Right. So again, I think Viktor Frankl left us the best example of all of that. Right. If you haven't read his book, Man's Search for Meaning, read it. It's not a fun read. I'm going to tell you, it's a difficult read. Why? Because he was at Auschwitz. And so, they took everything from him.
Yeah.
They assassinated his family.
Yeah.
You're standing outside in the cold, naked, haven't had any food in a week. And what you do is you get some crumbs of bread. You're whittling down to nothing. And every single day, every moment of your life, you don't know that you're next.
Yeah.
Are you going to the chamber that day? You can hear the screams. It's a horrible, painful death. You live with that every second. Can you imagine? But here's what Viktor figured out. He said, there's one thing you can't take from me. I have to give it to you. I have to turn it over. I have to relinquish this to you. And that was his attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so how did he gain purpose? A divine purpose. Out of all of that was going on, he said, someone has to tell this story.
Yeah.
And that's what empowered him to get out and tell the story.
Wow.
It works. I don't care if you're in Auschwitz or you're just in a bad place because you just went through a divorce or you just lost all your money or you just got fired. I believe this. Life is not as good as it seems. Life is not as bad as it seems. Reality is somewhere in the middle. Now, if you're in Auschwitz, that might be a different story.
Right.
But for most of us, let's face it, that's where we are. And we embellish, we overreact to whatever's happening. But again, I believe this, it's on my website and it's in my videos and I teach it when I talk and I do my seminars. And that is, if you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always get what you want.
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar.
His son, Tom, is a good friend of mine.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
I love Zig Ziglar. He's one of my favorite speakers. You got to remember the Zig, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I never forgot that. Zig's the man. Him and Tommy Hopkins and Brian Tracy and all the Tony Little and all these guys, before their time. And then of course that just, next thing I know, I'm hanging out with Robbins for 20 years. It's been pretty spectacular, you guys.
And there's one thing that I know Aaron and I both talk about with people we work with or people around us that you brought up that is huge, and that is choice. Every one of us has the choice to make. We can choose. Like I chat with people all the time that I said, hey, guess what? We're human beings. It's okay to wake up on the wrong side of the bed, but it's your choice whether you stay there or not. You have you might have a bad dream. Think it happens. We're humans, but it is up to you whether you choose to let that ruin your day or choose to turn it around and make it a great day. And
and guess what? And I get asked all the time. So Dave, what's your routine every day? What do you do every day, every morning? What's the first thing you do when you get out of that bed, even though you may have been on the wrong side of it? I make it.
Yes. So do
100%.
I. So do I.
Because you know what? No matter how bad my day is, I come home to a bed that's made. Okay, that's good. And then the second thing, you guys know who Gary Brecka is?
Yes. Love his stuff. I'm taking half my vitamins because of him.
Yeah, there you go. So what's the first thing I do? I go outside and I expose myself to,
Grounding.
that first 45 minutes of sunlight.
Yep.
And then I do my diaphragmatic breathing as I'm exposing myself. And I mean exposing myself from the waist up. Let me clarify that. And then I go, I think you said it, I go over and I put my feet on the planet.
Yep.
I do 9 minute worth of grounding and earthing every single day. Nice. Then I come in, I do some sound therapy. I read 10 pages in a good book every day.
Yep.
Do that one thing right there. It'll completely change your life. 10 pages every day. It's really easy to do, you guys. And it's also mundane. It's very easy not to do.
Yeah.
And then you probably know this is coming. I live up here in the Appalachian Mountains. I have a beautiful cabin up here in the mountains. I'm in the northwest corner of North Carolina. I'm right on the Tennessee-Virginia border. And so I have mountain spring water coming into my home. And so I take a hot shower, and then it's 3 minutes of hell.
You do the cold
But,
plunge for 3
yeah,
minutes.
I sure do. And I've
Nice.
been doing it for well over a year, probably a year, I don't know, 13 months, 14 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the water's 57 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and the guy asked me, he goes, "So Dave, it gets easier, right?" And I go, "No, it does not. Because as soon as it hits you in the face, it takes your breath away. You can't even breathe."
Mm-hmm.
And your body then, all your capillaries and your veins are closing off, and it's sending all that blood internally to protect your internal organs and your brain to protect it. And, yeah, but man, when you get out of that water, what an exhilarating feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so good for you. All that inflammation gets dealt with. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But again, that takes, you can say it's discipline, but you've got to have, if your purpose is big enough, then those things, are easy, right? I say all the time, do the things that are hard and life will become easier.
Yeah.
Do the things that are easy and your life will become hard, very hard.
Yeah.
And so, so that's the daily ritual, man. That's what I do to keep myself, where I like to be. I like where I am.
Yeah.
I like my life. It's extraordinary all the time. And that doesn't mean bad shit doesn't happen. It does. Of course it does. It's going to happen to all of us.
Yeah.
But as we well know, and we learn that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% what happens to, how we respond to it.
Yeah.
So once you get to that place, it's spectacular. And again, you learn to live from the inside out.
Yes. Yes.
And, and I speak to the EO organization. Do you guys know who they are?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Okay.
There's 218 chapters globally. And so they're a nonprofit. And so to get in, number one, you have to be an entrepreneur. Number two, you have to be invited by another member. Number three, you have to show 3 years financials.
Huh?
So you have to gross at least $1 million a year for 3 years.
Wow.
And the reason they hold the bar so high is because they don't want entrepreneur wannabes. They want entrepreneurs who figured stuff out and can come and share that, with the other entrepreneurs.
Right. Right.
And so here's what I learned about those entrepreneurs, though. They're all about achievement, achieve, make money. I got news for you, boys and girls. You get to the end, you'll miss your mark. Because if you don't balance it with fulfillment, you're screwed.
Well,
Tony Robbins will tell you achievement without fulfillment is total 100% failure.
100%. 100%. Well, Tony, one of Tony Robbins' first mentors, Jim Rohn.
God, yes.
Jim Rohn used to say, he's like having more, people will say, "Oh, if I had more money, I'd be more happy." He's like, no, that's not true. If you having more money is only going to make you more of what you already are. And if
you already know that's a lie.
Yeah.
I challenge. Yeah. When they say, "Oh, money," really?
No.
You want to tell me there's a life you made a lot of money and a week later you go, "Is that all there is?"
Right. Right. If you're not happy with who you are now, more money is just going to make you more of who you already are.
But if I get a bigger
there's
house,
something going on if all you care about is achievement and making money and not being happy. That's something that needs to be dealt with. Coming from your childhood, something was missing, and now you're doing that to make up for what was missing.
Yeah.
How often does that show up in your life?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what it's like. You've done it. You've done something really awesome for somebody. How that makes you feel.
Yeah.
What, you don't know that's not a universal code?
Right.
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
I mean, look at Mother Teresa. What did she own? Nothing.
Nope.
Yeah, she was one of the happiest people on earth.
Yep.
She was about as self-centered as it gets. I say it all the time. She was about as self-centered as it gets. She had it all figured out. Yep. She went into the most horrible places in life, and that's where she did her best work.
Yep.
Into death and destruction and poverty and pain and all of that.
Yeah.
And yet she knew, man. We all know what it's like. I have a buddy.
Boils down to purpose again.
Back to purpose.
Yep.
Back to
purpose, no hope.
Helping other people get what they want. Years ago, a good friend of mine, we were walking in Lowe's, and the girls were selling Girl Scout cookies. And I was, just hanging with him, and he walked up to the den mother, and he said, "Hi, my name's Gary, and I'd like to buy some cookies." And of course, the girls are there, they're all excited, right? Because they're going to sell some cookies, right? Which is a big deal when you're 10 years old, right? And all of a sudden, Gary goes, "I want to buy $200 worth of cookies, but there's a catch." And as soon as he said $200, the girls went, oh, like that's going to sell them out, right? And Gary goes, but there's a catch. And the catch is this. I don't want the cookies. I want you to take the girls and the cookies. I want you to find a retirement home. I want you to call the director, and I want you to find some people that are in that home that don't get any visitors.
This episode is brought to you by podmatch.com. For all your podcasting needs, if you're somebody who wants to be a guest on different podcasts, then this is the place for you. I was literally booked on 31 different podcasts in less than 30 days. And as a podcast host, I've been able to find everybody I needed for mine. So if you're trying to get on a podcast or you need people on your podcast, this is the place for you. Go to joinpodmatch.com/bschmaltzy to sign up today. You won't be disappointed, and your podcast experience will be that much better because of it.
And I want you to put a series of questions that I will help you with. I'll write them for you. And then I want you to take those cookies, take those girls, take those questions, and go into that home. And you watch the effect that it has on these young girls. And exactly. I went, oh, dude, you've got to be kidding me. Talk about creating magical moments.
Yeah.
And so now every time the Girl Scouts come, you can guess what I'm doing, right?
Yep.
It's so fun. It's just like, and you leave and you feel so amazing because you know what you created. In fact, I did one last year. The den mother went on our Facebook group in our county here and spread the news to all the other Girl Scout den mothers. And the only thing I asked in return was, can I come sit over there with the girls and take a picture? Because they're sitting through a little table and it's all set up with all the decorations and the cookies and all that. That's the only thing I want. I just want a picture with the girls so it can remind me of what it's like when you make your life about that.
You got me on a mission now. I'm gonna have to do that now.
Of course you will, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, my sinister ways. Yeah, I did that on purpose, and for your listeners too, right? That's how you create a movement.
Well, and that's that's a great idea. I love that because even though it's the Girl Scout cookies, so my wife and I, we don't really eat the cookies, but I'll go up and I'll hand over money to donate. Here's take this and donate it towards your cause. But now I like that even better. Now I'm gonna, instead of just giving the money for donation, I'm gonna say, no, here, let's do this. That's awesome.
Yeah, you completely influence and change those little girls' lives forever. Yeah. They'll never forget that. They might forget me, right? I don't. That's fine. I don't care about that. Obviously. Another thing I do is, you go into Walmart and, the checkout person is, they have a hard job. People, they get treated like crap.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rough job, if you will. And so I'll go in and I'm standing there and I'm standing in front of the candy and I'll look at the checkout person and I'll go, hey, I'm struggling here. And I'm just curious. I need to buy a candy bar for somebody I care about. What's your favorite candy bar? And they'll say Reese's peanut butter or whatever it is, right? I get 2 of them.
Yep.
And then they check out my groceries and I say, go ahead and check that out. And then I want to pay for these. And so they check that out and I go, I need 2 receipts. And they give me 2 receipts and then I put them in the bag. I take the 1 receipt, I put it in the bag because it shows now at Walmart that that it's been paid for.
Yeah.
Right. And then I hand it to them and I walk out. Don't say a word to them. Now they may scream something, or I've gone back in my Walmart before and go, I remember you. You're that guy. Right? Yeah, I'm that guy. That I'm out creating magical moments. And I like to say that, number one, stop looking for heroes and be one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop looking for magical moments and create them.
Yes.
That's what, we have the ability to do that. And again, that all comes from when you start living from the inside out. You start thinking about those things. You see those opportunities. Yeah. Your whole world opens up to you when you get to that point and stop looking for materialistic shit that you think is going to make you happy.
Yeah. And it's the
this is when you start manifesting all kinds of awesomeness as well, when you become that person.
Yeah. And it just
no longer stuck in victim mode.
Yeah.
Be the creator, not the victim. You can't be both at the same time.
Well, you're right. No. And most people don't realize that create and react have the same letters rearranged, except create has an E because it requires energy.
Ooh. Whoa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's delicious.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, fear and gratitude cannot occupy the same space in your mind and your body at the same time. Won't happen.
Yeah.
I sponsored a kid in AA. I love this guy. He literally got one of the very first liver transplants in America. Sweet guy. In fact, he got a liver before Walter Payton, the famous running back for the Chicago Bears, because Payton didn't make it. Right, he died of liver disease, even though he never drank. And so Mark got a liver. And Mark used to say all the time, I can hear him say it. He used to say, "Hey, if you're not grateful today, what day are you waiting for?"
Right.
Hey, if you're not, you say it every day, Amy. Hey, if you're not grateful today, what day are you waiting for? Oh, I loved it. It was so beautiful.
I love that you said that. So what I was going to save this till later, but now I'm going to say it here. So this clock that's above my head. So I have a new one that's on the way right now that literally just says now. A clock that says
when
now.
Would now be a good time to do it, right?
It just says now.
You tell them, and there's like, well, I don't know when I should do it. And I'll say, well, when would now be a good time?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay.
So I got to step back.
I guess now until they're ready.
So I got to step back a bit when you're talking about your morning routine, because I do almost, my routine is very similar to yours, even to the grounding part, except we're here in Central Florida and we learned the hard way that grounding out there has a thing called fire ants. So my wife and I ended up having to buy an actual grounding mat, because every time doesn't matter how much we take care of our yards, we still got bit by fire ants. So we ended up getting a grounding mat instead.
I've got one too. I've got the sheets and the pillowcase.
Nice.
So I sleep on that every night, but I still want to go put my feet on the planet.
Yeah.
I believe in my grounding mat, as you said. It's not a mat, again, it's sheets.
Yeah.
And I love that. I sleep on it, right? Which I love as well. However, I still want to go put my foot on the planet.
Well, we're here.
Tree.
Man, we're here near the beach. So, and I surf fish. So I'm always walking in the sand and out there in the water.
Oh, that's good.
Waist. So
yeah, there you go. That works. Absolutely, that works. I have access to a lot of creeks, and right down the road here from my house is the New River. It's one of the oldest rivers in the world, and right, next to my property here, there's a creek, and so I can go down there and I put my feet down in the mud and I, dig down into it, and I'll stand there for quite a while, and feels so good. Good stuff. And again, all that stuff is free.
Exactly.
The sun is free. The breathing is free. The grounding is free. The water, if you can get to it, like you said, you can't really do the water in South Florida. No. The water's 82 degrees. So right. it doesn't have the cause and effect. So you have to go get one of those ice baths, if you will.
Right. Which I don't have the space for on this back porch, but what I do is I start my hot shower, I take my hot shower, and then the last 3 minutes I turn it to cold and I soak in the cold shower. So it's the next best thing until I get the actual tub. Yeah.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
You want to get it below 60 degrees if you possibly can.
Yeah.
That's what Gary Brecka will teach you from that standpoint.
Oh yeah. No, I love his stuff. It's funny that you mentioned it. Not a lot of people know about him, or actually a lot of people know about him, but not a lot of people in our space pay attention to Gary as much as they could. He's got a lot of stuff to offer.
Well, and he's getting a lot of blowback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Big Pharma doesn't want to hear shit from him.
No, because he tells you all the legitimate nutritional ways to take care of yourself without the chemicals.
Absolutely.
It's bound to happen.
Yeah. Well, when you oxygenate yourself at the level that he teaches you, when you push all that oxygen in your body, guess what the oxygen does?
It heals you.
Yeah. He says, one of the things he says, dis-ease does not exist where oxygen is present.
Yep.
We know cancer can't survive in an oxygenated environment.
That's right.
Okay. And then, one of the other things I'm looking into now, and I'm fascinated and been kind of in this space for a while, is stem cells.
Oh, I'm so curious. I've only barely scratched the surface of it, but I am so curious about it.
Yeah. Well, the old days, they went into your bone marrow, pulled that out of your fatty tissue, and they would concentrate and get your own stem cells, and then they would shoot that into your shoulder or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Robert Harari discovered that the cells are in the umbilical and the placenta. So what they used to call medical waste and throw it away, I wonder why they did that. So now what they do is they go to a mother, and the mother agrees and signs off, and it has to be a very healthy cesarean. Everything has to go perfect, and then she donates it. So the hospital will test it right on the spot, and then they cryo freeze it, 180 degrees below zero or something like that. Then they send it off to the lab, and then the lab processes it.
Oh,
And only about 5% that gets sent to the lab actually makes it to become a product. But now you're sending millions and millions and millions of 4-day-old stem cells that create life into your body.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, it's off the chain. Yeah. Tony Robbins wrote a book. It's called Life Force. I don't know if you guys have read his book yet, but in the space you're in, you may want to go read his book.
I've read a couple of his, but I haven't read that one.
Oh yeah, this is all about health. This is the longevity of life, how to live an extraordinary life, all of that. None of the motivational stuff that you would have been, accustomed to with personal power and unleash the power, all that stuff, right? Yeah. This book's completely different. He's gone out and interviewed some of the greatest science doctor minds on earth.
Wow.
And again, one of them is Dr. Robert Harari. Go search that guy and go watch some of his videos. Oh my gosh. He explains in layman's terms what happens when you put 4-day-old stem cells in your body. I mean, it's twofold. So anyway, so Tony, he got in a car accident years ago that jacked his back. And then he had a skiing accident. He has a beautiful home in Sun Valley, Idaho. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's such a cool home. And so he was skiing he was snowboarding. And he was following his instructor down the mountain. Well, his instructor was doing shit that Tony didn't know how to do. And Tony went down hard. In fact, he thought he broke his neck in the beginning. But he really, really damaged his shoulder. So when he went back to all his doctors, guess what his doctors told him? Surgery.
Yeah, of course.
Medication. And Tony's like,
the rest of your life.
That's the system, man. Nope, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
And Tony's always been the guy that can find answers.
Yeah.
And so one of his other doctor friends said, hey, you need to go meet Dr. Robert Harari. And he did. And so Harari said, so Tony, this is real simple. Take the risk and the positive factor here. If you go under the knife and it goes wrong, you can't fix it. If I treat you with stem cell, I'm going to shoot some into the shoulder directly, and I'm going to give you an IV. What's the worst case scenario? That there's a little bit of, I don't know, redness and soreness where the injection went in?
Right.
What would you rather do? Go under the knife or an injection? A needle? You tell me.
Right.
And
right.
So Tony, he said, I guess the worst scenario is, I spend a lot of money and it doesn't work. And basically, I think Dr. Robert looked at him and said, it's going to work. Shut up already. And so Dr. Bob is in his book. He helped co-author it.
Oh, nice.
And then, you look around. Come on. Look at all the athletes. Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus. Jack Nicklaus. Yeah. All these people. Mel Gibson, he had a shoulder issue. His dad was 92 years old. He treated him. His whole life turned around. It's there. But you had to go out of America to do it. You had to go to Panama or Costa Rica or Mexico or Europe. Peyton Manning is one of my favorite. He jacked his neck. His career was over.
He had 2 neck surgeries.
And then he went to Europe and he got stem cell treatments. And the NFL made him sign a gag order. You're not allowed to talk about it.
And then he came back and won 2 Super Bowls.
He won. Well, I know he went to Denver. He won one. I know that.
One. Yeah.
With Denver.
Yeah, that's right.
His career was over.
Yeah.
So if you got knee problems or neck problems or back problems or shoulder or wrist or hand or whatever, even neuropathy. I mean, there's so many things that the cells don't care. Those cells are just waiting to become new cells. And so from a regenerative medicine standpoint, regenerative means it's going to regenerate that whole joint. That means it's going to create new soft tissue, bones, ligaments, tendons, cartilage. Most people here, bone on bone, that's pretty painful.
Yeah.
You can get these injections, and you can reduce what happened, where it would take years to recover to months.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, at least pain from months to weeks.
Yeah.
Because the first thing the stem's going to do is go in and attack the inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that affects the pain receptors. So your pain starts to stop. Tony will tell you. He has a recording he did with who's it with? I remember he's got a recording. Anyway, he talks about that when he did. Oh, I know. He was being interviewed by ABC. And he basically said that, he went in for 3 days and he did an injection into the joint, and then he did an IV. And the next day, after living with pain for 14 years, pain was gone.
Wow.
And then, so now he took a whole chapter on page 40. If you start there, you won't believe what you'll read there, you guys. Mm-hmm. It is worth your time to go learn that, so that you can help your family before they go get a knee replacement.
Right.
Or a hip replacement, or they're in a lot of pain and they're starting to take medications. Because here's the bottom line. If you have a bad joint, you have 3 choices. There's only 3. Number 1, you live with the pain. Well, that's not very encouraging. Number 2, you take pharmaceuticals. Over the counter is where you start. You know how many people die every year taking Tylenol?
Yep.
Right? So then
shouldn't be
once the pharmaceuticals and the Advil and the ibuprofen doesn't work, then what do? Your doctor goes, here, I get a kickback, take this prescription.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to stop.
The rest of your life.
All doctors, every doctor in America, no more kickbacks. Stop. That is so corrupt. No wonder,
big
no
time.
wonder we have so many problems.
This is why I tell people to go see a nutritionist, not a doctor.
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong. If me or my family or you guys are in an emergency situation, you fall out of a tree or in a car accident, emergency medicine in America is the best in the world.
Yeah.
Nowhere I'd rather be, in a trauma center somewhere in America.
Mm-hmm.
But if you walk through the front door of a doctor who's getting kickbacks from Big Pharma, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So my point is, you may want to look into get a hold of me. I can get you the right people with the stem cell. It's out there, and again, the bottom line, it works, and it's going to work.
Yeah.
So I know here last year in Australia, they created a beating heart, a life-size beating heart with stem cells.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Here's an interesting stat for you. America is 4% of the population of the world. What do you think the percentage of the population of the United States is taking drug, pharmaceutical, pain medications?
Oh, large percentage. I don't know the number, but it's pretty large.
83%.
God. Wow.
I was going to say 50. 83.
Hello? Wake up, America.
Well, I'm glad to be one of the 17%, my family and I.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I say this all the time. We're either onto something or we're on something.
Yeah.
So it's both. Stop.
Yeah.
It really interesting. Go ahead. Sorry, Aaron. What were you going to say, Aaron?
Just to say, most people aren't proactive in their own health, though, either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have people in my life who would rather just listen to everything the doctor says and follow the orders, rather than thinking for themselves, thinking critically, doing their own research.
Well, and just not only that, but
that's because we were programmed.
Exactly right. And those same people are the ones when you talk to them and you suggest things like, hey, have you seen a nutritionist? Have you seen what you're deficient in vitamins? They're like, what, are you a doctor? I'm going to trust the doctor that went to school for this. And I'm like, oh, come on. This doctor he does not have your best interest in heart and in mind here.
That's why I love Gary Brecka.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Gary's a human biologist.
Yeah.
He knows exactly how the body functions. Mm-hmm. And he also knows what happens when it breaks down. What's wrong? What needs to be reintroduced to the body? I don't know if you guys know this, but he was a mortality expert.
I heard him on Joe Rogan. That's the only reason I do know that.
Okay, right. So there's another guy that will tell you about stem cells. His shoulder was jacked,
Yeah.
and he got injections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Gary worked for the insurance company as a mortality expert. So if we came in the door to write a big policy, $50 million, they say, great, all right, we just need to take a look at your blood. And they'd send it off to Gary. And Gary would come back to the insurance company and tell them, this guy's going to be dead in February 2028. He can tell you when you're going to die to the month.
Yeah, he has this process. He has this process where he can literally tell you when you're going to die. If you continue down the same path,
exactly,
this is when you're gonna. He did that with what was his name? The UFC the guy
Dana White.
Dana White. He did that with Dana White, and he said, Dana, you're going to die.
Steve Harvey, Joe.
He said you're going to die at
Rogan,
60. If you continue down this path, you're going to die at 62. And he hired Gary Brecka on the spot, ran him through a whole program, and now he's like obviously a little way better than that. Lost like 45 pounds, became fit as ever been, the whole shebang.
And the other part of that too was they wouldn't let him. He said, hey, you know, if you just tell this person to live like this, and this, and make these changes, we could add another 12, 15 years of their life. Mm-hmm. Insurance company said, nope. Yep. So that's when he woke up one day and said, this is bullshit.
Yep.
This is wrong.
All rigged.
Yep.
This is a crime. And so he left, started 10X.
Yep.
And Grant Cardone got involved in some money and all that, which is fine, which is great. But yeah, Gary's a good dude, man. He's brilliant. And if you don't know what he's teaching, you should get yourself out there and learn.
Yeah.
Because he can change your life, and everything that he tells you to do, especially in the beginning, is all free. Now, if you want to start taking his supplements, which I do, he's got really good vitamin D and you know, all his supplements. And he explains to you why his supplements are different than ones you'll buy at Walmart.
Well, and what's also great about it, if you go to his website, he's not only has his supplements, he shows you which ones you can get on Amazon that he takes that aren't his. You know, he gives you a list of everything he recommends, whether it's his or not. So he's there clearly in the best interest of people, not just for his own pocketbook. Yeah. And the one thing we haven't done yet, my wife and I are talking about doing here in the next month is he has a thing, it's like $500 and it's a swab. You do a swab and he'll tell you exactly what you're deficient in. And you can up your vitamins or down or change your vitamin intake because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't done it yet simply because, you know, I guess I probably made up some story. I haven't done it yet. I know that new test just came out. So I'm part of the 10X team, if you will. And so I need to order mine. I've been on the road like really intense for the last couple of months.
Yeah.
I was in Texas for 3 weeks, and then I was in South Carolina for a couple of weeks, and I've been all over the place. So I need to sit down and order the test, and because I want to know exactly what's going on with all that.
Yeah, likewise. All right, guys, let's get this wrapped up here. We've been talking for about an hour and a half. I mean, this is great. This has been great. I mean, we, like you said, Dave, we could literally do another podcast just on this stuff here. We could go on and on and on. So before we wrap it up, what would you like to say to the audience? Last thing you'd like to say to the audience, and then tell them where they can find you.
Well, again, I believe that, you know, life's not as good as it seems. Life's not as bad as it seems. Reality's somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. Get yourself to a point where you totally understand and live from the inside out. Mm-hmm. Read 10 pages in a good book every day. Do the things every day that will catapult you into an extraordinary life. Look, everything you've ever wanted is sitting right over there on the other side of fear. And the interesting thing about fear is a liar. You know, look, don't get me wrong. You know, fear is there to guide you. Just don't let it become your jailer. Mm-hmm. And then learn to serve others at a high level, and your life will become so good, so enriched. You'll like this morning, I could barely get out of bed. I was so grateful, right? But I'm also sitting here, you know, with 36 years of sobriety. So it's a monumental day in my life. Yeah. So, and I guess I would finish with saying, you know, create a great story. Yeah. And no matter what happens to you, and again, once you learn that life is happening for you and not to you, everything in your life will change. So go tap into that.
Absolutely. And then where can people find you, Dave? Where's the best place for people to follow you, find you, reach out to you?
Yeah. Just go to our website. I'm there, very accessible, firewalkadventures.com.
Yeah.
So it's all one word, firewalkadventures with an S.com. The academy's there. They can check that out. Talk about firewalks or any of the stuff that you want to find out about us. I'm fully accessible, and so just reach out and we'll talk.
Awesome. Awesome. Aaron, any last words before we call it?
This is great. Great hanging out with you, Dave.
Oh, thanks, Aaron.
We could
That's beautiful.
absolutely continue this conversation in so many different directions.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is going to be really, really helpful. Great information that people can, implement into their life, like right now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Like tomorrow or right now.
Like
right now.
Now.
There is one other thing I do want to say to your listeners that I think is critical, and that is, we know that our bodies are about 70% water.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I would say to you: don't ever stop drinking tap water.
Mm.
It's poison. It's got chemicals in it. It's got undigested pharmaceuticals in it. It's got chlorine. It's got fluoride. The water is dead. Humans were designed to drink live water from a creek, from a river, from a lake. That water's alive. So what I would say to you is don't ever drink tap water again. Okay, Dave, then what do? Go find, there's someone in your area has spring water. They've got a farm or something and they're selling spring water. Go get it. Mm-hmm. Go drink water that comes out of the sky through the ground into a creek. It's all filtered with all the minerals and vitamins and things that you need, and drink that. And drink half your body weight a day in water, and watch what happens in your life. And if you add that to the breathing and then the exposing your body to the sun and the grounding and the cold showers, your life will never, ever be the same again. Yeah. And so thanks for being here today, you guys.
Absolutely.
And Tony and Aaron, thank you for having me on the show. It means a lot to me. And you guys do all the work. All I had to do is come in here and run my pie hole. And, I know you guys have got to do all the editing and all the stuff and all the work. So thank you. And I don't think, a lot of listeners know how much work goes into that. So, thank you. I appreciate you. It was wonderful. And I'd love to come back again.
Oh, we would love to have you back in. Like I said, we can definitely talk for hours and hours. So anyway, for now, guys, thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.